Candace Owens' toxic empathy for Palestine. I'm talking about the deal-breaking blind spot of Candace Owens, her toxic empathy for Gaza versus Israel. Candace Owens has been a bold voice for truth, but when it comes to Gaza and Israel, she's dead wrong. Here's why her empathy for Hamas victims is not compassion, it's compromise. I like Candace Owens. That's not the tough truth. There's a lot to like. She's a brilliant debater, and she loves the Lord, and she's a Christian. I've defended her. I've reposted her. I've even applauded her courage in confronting woke ideology, CRT, trans indoctrination, and fake feminism. And I love how she takes on conspiracy theories and proves many of them true. But today I've got to call out something that she's dead wrong on.
I knew something was wrong.
Because it's not just off base, it's spiritually dangerous. Her take on Gaza, her take on Palestine versus Israel, her neutrality on Israel.
You're neutral.
Her toxic empathy for Palestinian suffering without truthfully naming terrorism for what it is. When it comes to this, it's not just a hot take, it's a deal-breaking blind spot, and it matters more than most people think.
A blind spot right in the middle.
First of all, there's extremes. People say she's anti-Jewish. That's just not true. And some people say she's just blindly Palestinian, and I'll expose some of that too in several parts. First, Candace Owens, a brilliant, brave voice, mostly. Let's give her credit. Candace has demolished lies, and most conservatives won't even touch some of the lies she's demolished. She's called out BLM when it was considered career suicide. She exposed the trans agenda before it hit kindergarten classrooms. She confronts liberal lies with surgical precision. And I'll say it clearly, Candace is brilliant. She's brave, she's clear-headed, until we get to Israel for some reason. Second thing I want to talk about, her position on Gaza and Israel, in her own words. Let's pull receipts, because that's always important in things like this. It's not my opinion or hers or anybody else's. It's what actually was said and happened.
I have the receipts.
Candace has repeatedly stated things like, both sides are wrong. I stand for peace. I'm not going to blindly support Israel. The suffering of Palestinian children must be acknowledged. And all that sounds reasonable, right? But here's the problem. What she's doing is elevating feelings over facts and toxic empathy over biblical clarity. She speaks as if Israel and Hamas are morally equivalent. Israel defending itself against terrorism is somehow as wrong as the terrorists themselves. That's not just misguided. It's the exact language anti-Israel propaganda uses. It's the language of Hamas. And listen, when your compassion ignores context, it becomes complicity.
Are we clear?
Third, why this isn't just a political issue. This is a biblical issue. But this isn't about picking sides in a Middle Eastern conflict. This is about what God has said clearly, repeatedly, and eternally. Genesis 12:3. I will bless those who bless you, and him who dishonors you I will curse. That's God talking about Israel. Zechariah 2:8. Whoever touches you, Israel, touches the apple of his eye. Romans 11:1-2, and then 25-29 summarize. Paul is crystal clear here. Israel is not rejected. They are still chosen. God's promises are irrevocable. This means anytime we both sides the issue, especially when one side is openly genocidal and anti-God, we're not being peacemakers. We're being theologically reckless. Number 4, the danger of toxic empathy. Most people don't know that empathy is a pretty new word as words go. Early 1920s is when it really made its first appearance. It's like sympathy on steroids for all the wrong reasons, or it can be. What Candace is showing here isn't just a lapse of logic. It's a classic case of toxic empathy. Ali Bestucky defines toxic empathy as, quote, an emotional response divorced from truth and detached from moral clarity. Candace sees the pain, no doubt real, of Palestinian children. It's hard to look at that. That pain is real. She sees the destruction in Gaza, but instead of rightly placing blame on Hamas, she directs moral criticism at Israel for defending its people. That's not justice, that's emotional idolatry. Listen, toxic empathy always weeps louder for the loudest victim, but never for the actual one. Again, that's not empathy, that's toxic empathy. Here's what it misses, toxic empathy. It misses Hamas using civilians as human shields, Hamas storing weapons in hospitals, Hamas launching missiles from schools. And when Israel retaliates, the world blames, I don't know, Israel? Candace has fallen for that trap. And when a voice as influential as hers amplifies it, it sows confusion in the church. And boy, do we see that. Fifth thing, compassion with boundaries is the Jesus model. And that's not really what we're seeing here. Let me say something important. You can weep for children in Gaza, and you should. You should mourn every innocent life lost, but you cannot let that mourning turn into moral confusion. Jesus himself wept over Jerusalem, Luke 19:41, but he also judged unrighteousness. He flipped the tables. He declared judgment on cities that rejected truth. Bottom line, biblical compassion never cancels clarity. It sharpens it. We can love people and still call evil evil. We can grieve and still stand with God's people. We can show mercy, but not muted morality. And we can love and still make tough love choices. This is my final word on this, although I've got a lot more I could say for this video. Final word. This is a deal breaker for me. I'll say it straight. Candace has been right on 99 out of 100 issues. She's really a great voice for clarity. But if she can't get Israel right, if she's willing to emotionally both sides the fulfillment of prophecy, the preservation of God's covenant and the literal center of God's redemptive plan, then I can't get on that program. Not with my heart, not with my audience, not with my platform, because silence or neutrality on Israel isn't neutral. It's alignment with the wrong side of God's word. Zechariah 12:3 says all nations will gather against Jerusalem. And when that happens, I'd rather be accused of being too loyal to Israel than found fighting against the God who calls her chosen. Wow, those are some tough things, Pastor Rob. What should we do about it? Well, at least make a step if you've been confused by voices like Candace on this issue again. If you're unable to separate that from the rest of what she says, maybe you can't follow her. But what you definitely need to do is go to the word, prophecy, and the covenants of God. Drop "I stand with Israel" in the comments if you do. And share this with someone who's letting feelings replace theology. Like, subscribe, and don't miss the next episode because we're not done exposing truth wrapped in lies. This is Rob Singleton. I'll see you in the next video.